Hey, what's up guys and gals? My name is Rick9G. Thank you so much for joining me today. We're going to be talking about the Three Stooges. We're going to be talking about and looking at the 53rd Stooge short of the Columbia Pictures collection called So Long, Mr. Chumps. Now this one was released February 7th, 1941, and it was filmed between July 25th through the 30th, 1940. Now, as I mentioned, this is the 53rd Stooge short in the Columbia Pictures collection. So if you're interested to see the previous ones, don't forget to click in the link below in the description, Three Stooges playlist, where I have all of the rest before this. I think you'll enjoy them, full of bloopers, facts, things you'll absolutely love. Let's get right into it. Now, in terms of the exterior shots, this is the second Stooge short to include not only the prison set, which is mostly seen at the end of the short, but also the famous fountain in the park at the Columbia Ranch. Now, this is the same fountain, or that is the same location. They actually use a different fountain for the show Friends, if you're familiar with that show. And they utilize the gas and electric building as well, which is found on the Columbia Ranch as well. They used the New York Street a couple of times. And for the most part, a lot of the episode itself is shot outside. This man is Bud Jameson, and he's found in many Stooge shorts. He was actually in this one, but in a deleted scene, which is not in the final cut of this short. So I included him here. So technically he isn't in the short, but he did record for it. And of course, we can't forget Vernon Dent, who was the most prolific actor seen on the Stooges, other than the Three Stooges themselves. And he was in the short, of course, as a police officer. He makes his regular appearance. Now, the title of the short, So Long, Mr. Chumps, it's actually a parody of the film Goodbye, Mr. Chips. Now, regarding the whole jail sequence at the end of this short, it's really interesting that this whole sequence, well, most of it, was later reused in the Stooge short Beer Barrel Polecats. Now, when I review that film later in the future, I will refer back to this one, letting you know that this is the first time this was actually aired and then later reused in that short. Essentially, the story in this short goes that the Stooges are offered a big reward to find an honest man, and their search actually lands them in prison, where they attempt to bust out a wrongly accused convict and themselves. In one of the jail sequences where the Stooges are breaking the rocks, they take the iron ball chains that are surrounding their feet and they drop them one by one in the rhythmic fashion. It's actually the NBC chime. Now, that concept was recycled in an earlier short that premiered in 1937. That one was called Back in the Woods, and I actually did review that one. Although the short is light on bloopers, I have a couple for you. The first is during an exterior scene when we have the Three Stooges in these plush outfits with the top hats. We see a dog and he's wagging his tail, kind of pointing it in the left hand direction. Well, that is all done by a string or a wire that you can clearly see I'm highlighting for you. The boys reach the police station and there's two bloopers basically back to back. You have the cops all run out the door, and as they slam it, you can clearly see that the wall is flimsy. It's a facade. It's of course not a real wall. The whole wall kind of jiggles and vibrates. The painting does as well. The entire framing, and so that lets you know that this is of course not a real building, not a real wall. As that happens, this lamp breaks and you can see it is pulled along by a string or a wire. And I want to highlight this little short skit that the Stooges do have outside, and that is, of course, with Moe and Curly and the cigar. It's pretty funny where Curly starts with a small cigar, and then Moe slaps it away. Curly takes out a larger one, Moe slaps it away, and then finally a third one, and it's a gigantic cigar. Well, that wasn't the first time that was ever seen in the Stooges. It was seen previously in the 1936 short Movie Maniacs, which I actually covered previously. But that time they actually used a pencil that would continuously grow and get bigger and bigger and bigger. Then it was also seen in 1939's Three Sappy People, which I have also covered, and that they used the same type of pencil gags. Now, out of those three scenes, which one did you prefer the most? Then I have to finish with this blooper. What I mean by that is it's a misconception that this final scene at the jail when we have the Stooges breaking the rocks over Curly's head, many people think that this is actually a blooper or that it's ad-libbed. And that is the one where Larry smiles when Curly says about the rock he's holding. He says, "Hey, wait a minute, that's a real one. I'm no fool. Nyuk, nyuk, nyuk." And then we see Larry have a little bit of a grin as well as Moe. But if you look at the actual original script, there are stage instructions for Moe and Larry to smile as the scene fades out. So this is in fact not a blooper, it's part of the scene. So I guess it would be a blooper if people thought it was a blooper, if that even makes sense. Well, that's it for this video, guys and gals. We usually have so much fun making these. Go ahead and check out the playlist. I will definitely be adding more reviews of the shorts, as well as eventually get to the Shemp and Joe Besser one, so stay tuned. We'll see you next time. If you do like it, don't forget to subscribe and hit that thumbs up button, and most importantly, be hopeful. Thank you to my Diamond tier patrons, Andrew B, Ricky, and David D. And thank you to every single one of my Patreons where I have exclusive content. Be sure to look in the description below for merchandise, Patreon exclusive content, as well as playlists where you can find other TV shows and sitcoms that I think you'll enjoy. We'll see you all next time.